access management, but you guys are AASB, which without AASB, all of those tactics are insufficient, correct?
Yeah, it was pretty much spot on. Kudos to you for pronouncing out every one of those acronyms. Unfortunately, security and analysts, we just have too many of them. We invented one more ourselves, right? Like,
Well, this is the Walter Bacon podcast where I highlight some of the most practical and game-changing B2B AI startups. Today, I'm with my friend Raj Srinivasan, CEO and co-founder of Unbound AI. Unbound AI is the Agent Access Security Broker, or AASB, designed to govern what AI coding agents can see, touch, and do across files, terminals, MCP servers, APIs, and connected systems. It allows you to maintain the tightest compliance and security controls for your coding agents while preserving developer velocity. So, Raj, it's great to have you today.
indeed, my pleasure. Great to see you again, Walter.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into the problem that you're solving.
Yeah, sounds good. So it's interesting because we've come in a very short amount of time from AI just responding to questions that you asked on chat and you getting awed by the quality of response. Now all the way up to, you have agents seeing and doing things for you. So it's asking a question, it is trying to do an action based on that. It gets the response from the action, and then it is doing a follow-on request response sequence based on that. So you ask it to troubleshoot something, it'll go run and see an error, it'll rewrite the code, re-execute it, restart servers, and push code for you, right? Like that's how far we've come with AI. Consequence of it is obviously now AI is touching a lot of things, right? Which includes seeing sensitive data, deleting sensitive files, performing actions that the user may or may not have intended. So that's essentially at a high level what we solve at Unbound, right? Like, so we start all the way from seeing what level of control that you have into saying things like, hey, this is what the coding agents can and cannot do as a boundary. So that's the primary problem that we're solving at Unbound.
Okay, so great. So I read and heard you talk about the risk surface. So there's a much greater risk surface now, and a lot of things will get missed by standard security tools. So can you talk about the increased risk surface?
For sure. So there are two categories of risks that I look at, right? Like first is obviously the supply chain itself. So coding agents now have a lot of bells and whistles that can be plugged into pretty much anything. Like when I wake up for the day, I'm starting my day with Claude, right? Like so my emails are coming in there, my outputs are also going out from there to executing anything else that I wanted. So there is a whole ecosystem of things to make it all work. Like there's MCPs, which give LLMs legs to go do whatever it wants. So you could connect your Claude to anything and it does actions on through those MCPs. And then there are skills which teach Claude how to do certain things within those workflows. So the surface area just expanded so much more rapidly. It's not just an LLM with a wrapper anymore. It's just like, oh, it can do anything. So that's what we mean by supply chain. You could have a malicious skill, or you could have an MCP that you don't have an existing relationship with. And if you have secrets going in there, that's a huge problem, and so on. So that's the supply chain problem, number one. And number two is really, we spoke briefly about malicious skill, but even more important is agentic overreach, right? Like, so agents are very smart. They will try to figure out a solution irrespective of whether it is okay within the guardrails or not. So what we saw with the Hugging Face incident just happened in this case, right? Like, so if they have to go and find a way to get some credentials from the database, it will go try and do that. So obviously, some of these make headlines, but within our installed base, we see a lot of these that are like minor to major infractions, from reading secret keys even when it was not asked for, restarting servers without authorization, or even deleting data, and then the customers have to restore things from backup and so on. So that is exactly what I mean by the increased security risks.
So I noticed on your website, like your platform is standing in the middle of all the different agents and the access to the rest of the system. So it's definitely, it works with not just Claude, but all the other agents and tools and everything. It just acts as that kind of middle.
That is exactly true, Walter.
Okay.
So yeah, and we are seeing more and more instances of people not marrying one tool and just being with it. Like most enterprises are now on just the way how everybody's on three clouds now. So everybody has an instance of Claude and GitHub Copilot and Codex and Augment Code and so on. We don't believe the surface area should be a concern when it comes to security. Oh, you have X security only if you use this, and you don't have that outside. So we recently introduced support for Claude Cowork as well, which is completely outside of the realm of developers. It's for any knowledge worker at this point, where controls like what we do becomes even more important because these are non-developers. So you go show them like, hey, can I execute rm-rf on your home directory? You're just going to say yes because it makes more sense to you. And we're seeing many of those kind of problems as well, where the non-developer community needs even more of these guardrails to be able to safely roll out tools.
Got it. I saw the number 83% over permissioned. Can you describe that statistic?
Yeah, indeed. So if you look at how things work today with agents, right, like a lot of them are just acting as me. It's like I like the Tesla autopilot analogy, right? Like, so if it is making an action, it is using my credentials, it is using my privileges. So if I have access to production, my agentic AI coding surface is also going to have access to production. So that is directly an over permission. And there are people that have like specific restricted privileges. They do special service account based MCP sign-ons and things like that. Even they tend to be O permission. And when we say O permission, it's because it has X, like a larger set of permissions, and the actual actions that it is doing over like a 30, 60, 90-day window is like 10 to 12% of all the permissions that it can do. So that indicates that all of this is extremely over permission. So that's where that statistic is really coming from.
And how would you describe the Claude desktop governance playbook? I saw on your website there's kind of a flow, and can you describe that a bit?
Yeah, indeed. So the cloud desktop is indeed one of the, I think, the newer innovations that's going to democratize agentic AI being available for pretty much everyone, right? Like, so it's not just a terminal and Cloud Code and developers anymore. It's really going to be like, hey, anything that you want to do, you want to do PowerPoint presentations? Sure, you use Cloud Desktop, it'll generate those for you kind of a moment, right? Like, a lot of scenarios is, oh, okay, how do I govern this? How do I make sure my not so technical business users are actually being able to leverage AI in an agentic way and not just asking questions? So it really opens up doors in that way. So the governance framework is three parts. Like there are lots of ways to deploy Cloud Desktop today or any of the agentic tools. Like Copilot has its own agent as well, and so on. It's like, oh, do you want to do a Bedrock or Vertex AI, like, use your cloud provider as the AI provider and do these as tooling on top of it? Or do you have like a light LLM kind of equivalent and using on top of it? Or are you on first party Anthropic API? So all of that is what goes into that playbook. So irrespective of which variation you consume, we have a solution for it. And that's what we have described in that playbook.
Some of the standard security tools or measures are like CASB, Cloud Access Security Broker, DLP, Data Loss Prevention, EDR, Endpoint Detection and Response, IAM, Identity and Access Management, and then PAM, Privileged Access Management. But you guys are AASB, which without AASB, all of those tactics are insufficient, correct?
Yeah, it was pretty much spot on. Kudos to you for pronouncing out every one of those acronyms. Unfortunately, security and analysts, we just have too many of them. We invented one more ourselves, right? Like, so the crux being the old school way of doing security was always like, hey, something is going on the wire. I'll put a gate in front of that wire and boom, I have a way to do security, right? Like, or it is always about boundary-based controls. Hey, like, several things are going out. I will put a boundary about what can go out and come back in and boom, I have security, which is kind of the firewall world and the network security world of way of doing things. CASB was a little bit different. It was doing something very similar just for SaaS. So it was very binary, like, something could either go out or come back in, and you had like several people, security engineers writing policy after policy. If you look at a typical large enterprise deployment of a network security product, like a Cisco or a Palo Alto Networks, it is several thousand policies written over like ages and years of time. All of those playbooks completely go for a toss when it comes to AI, right? Like, so it is very fuzzy, it is non-deterministic in nature, and that's by design. It is literally meant to be that way. So, which means your policies also have to be in a similar way. You have to have a risk analyzed version of being able to say that, hey, this is why this is important. So you can't just be like, oh, anything that looks like RM on a regex, I will just go and block. Like, no, those kind of playbooks don't work anymore. And it's exactly the reason why those existing technologies fall short when it comes to protecting AI.
Well, so if you're going to add all this added security and everything, let's talk about the implementation arc. So how is that important? You said it's very important to look at the implementation arc and to have just the right balance. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so it's usually a set of nobody likes security teams in the organization, right? It's like, hey, I'm trying to do something and you're putting a gate in front of it. Classic VPN kind of issues. Like nobody loves their VPN, as the saying. So, and we take it from a slightly contrarian approach where we go into many of these enterprises, we notice that it's either the complete Wild West or they have not rolled out a particular piece of technology because they don't have governance controls over it. So, and different enterprises are in different positions for the right reason. There's no like, oh, you're AI pragmatic because you have like Wild West approach versus you're behind if you don't. So, and we cater to both ends of the segment, right? Like, so it's interesting because we focus a lot of emphasis on like end user friendliness. So one way to shut it all down is just say, oh, don't use anything and you're secure, right? Like, so that doesn't work out, then we won't be in business at all. The reason we exist is, hey, you can use this and also not compromise on security. That has been our value prop, which is where we come in.
And so you do you like inventory, classify, policy, enforce, and review. You have this kind of process that seems to work, and it's a good balance, right?
Yeah, it's exactly the way it is, right? Like, so inventory and enforcement plays well together. You got to measure something and know where you stand and to be able to keep increasing your security score. A key part of our onboarding is we show you where you stand with your security score and we tell you precisely what measures you can take to go increase that security score. And in some cases, you accept the risk. You will be like, hey, these are special teams that have gone through so much security training, and I want them to have a specialized level of being able to do a lot of things, and they get to do that as well. So that's the step-based approach that we see. Like, you start with where knowing where you are, go all the way up to enforcement. So typically takes great teams about like 3 months to get there, but you're fully deployed with Unbound in typically about one Zoom call. Like, within an hour, you have everything going, all the sensors are working, you have data coming to you, and then we start suggesting you policies and controls that you can put on top.
Got it. Well, without mentioning any client names or anything, do you want to share a customer success story?
Yeah, sure. This one is fresh on top of mind because we just walked out of that one. This was it's a technology leader, right? Like, they are not behind in any way. It's not like an old school laggard or anything of that sort. So they had a lot of implementation going on with respect to AI. So we found several damaging instances that was completely flying under the radar. Like, an AWS secret key had already leaked to a third-party MCP that they had no vendor relationship with. And this was kind of an open source project, so they don't know. And it's also like a hosted version of that open source project, so they have no idea how to deal with it. So obviously they had to rotate the key. That's just the most important one from a security implication. And we find instances like, hey, somebody is building their 15th fitness training app for their own personal use cases. Somebody is using the Spotify MCP to tune their music collection and not. So we see all of those kind of instances, putting customer data at jeopardy and risk because you're adding those MCPs. You are also trying to tune into things. Somebody had a shopping MCP on their enterprise cloud account, which will keep comparing prices regularly to allow them to get the best deal of something that they wanted. So those are all instances that we see. And this is interesting because MCPs don't get invoked dynamically. They're mostly part of your existing context, which means your data is going to those random third-party services that you have absolutely no enterprise relationship with, and they can do whatever they want with their data. You don't have a DPA or a third-party processing agreement. Those are some clearly direct instances. And we also give analytics around token use, where things went, very tight controls, and so on. Yeah.
Got it. Who would be an ideal prospect for you?
Yeah, so by and large, regulated enterprises is where we started off with. Now we are going more and more into technology forward companies as well. So typically CISOs, head of AI governance, AI enablement, those are the personas that we sell into. We've had a lot of success with 1,000 to 5,000 employees. Now we are scaling up to even higher size enterprises.
Great. And if people wanted to engage and learn more, how should they do that?
Absolutely. So you could go take a look at getunbound.ai. We have a pretty informative blog section as well that has a lot of content. Our product is entirely free to try. So without any credit card, without any sales call, you could literally go click sign up and start using the product for free for the first month.
Awesome. Well, Raj, this has been really great learning about Unbound AI, and I look forward to watching the success of the company and really appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Thank you, my friend. Great chat today.